From WCRS Studios in Greenwood, South Carolina, this is Meet Me at the Diner with your host, Ann Eller.
Whoops, Dr. Stephen Glen. Well, I've been talking, and now I'm on the air, aren't I? Yeah, okay. All right, we've had Dr. Stephen Glen. I got almost everything right. Just missed that part where I wasn't talking on the air. You could see me, but you couldn't hear me. All right, we have Dr. Stephen Glen here today. He is District 50, and we are going to be talking about all things with the School District 50. They've had a lot of successes. They have some issues, and it's a big question how to resolve these issues and move everybody forward, because all children deserve to be successful in their education. So Dr. Glen has served in just about every position there is in the school system, as well as getting his doctorate in education leadership from Clemson in 2005. He also served as director of the G. Frank Russell Technology Center and principal of Westview Middle School prior to joining District 50 as superintendent. So, Dr. Glen is here with us today, and now that you've had the introduction twice, how does that feel? Are you impressed?
I just want to say thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure to have you on here today. And I started out before the holidays, and I know your dad died, and I'm sorry to hear that. And so that was a difficult time for you. So we had to reschedule that for now. And, of course, you've made some changes since then. The program, the ACTS program, all these additional programs, the Montessori program were off the table, and then they were back on the table again.
So we never did make a change. Is everything staying exactly like how it has been for the last 20
well,
years?
you had brought it up.
I recommended it, yes.
Yes, you recommended it. And can you just give us I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but just what was the reasoning real quick for changing the programs as they were?
The reason that I came up with the change is try to involve more of our students that deserve the opportunity. You know, we have 6 of our 8 elementary schools are excellent. The other 2 are good. I don't know of another district in the state of South Carolina, at least not in our area, that has had that kind of success with elementary schools, and those students they deserve an opportunity. We're very limited on the numbers that we can have in those programs, and I was trying to come up with a way to include more. Didn't have the support that I needed, so therefore there's no need to fight something that you can't win.
Right.
You don't want to take away from the positives that we've had, and we're going to continue to have. And we're going to keep on moving and keep on moving forward and continue to get better. That's our goal.
So I guess what you're saying is that more students you feel should have that opportunity to be involved in these different programs. That's your premise.
I definitely think so. You know, you're 12 years old. You're 11. You're 12 years old. Who knows what they want to do at 11 or 12? I sure didn't. I still had hopes of being a professional football player. I didn't grow big enough for that. The good Lord didn't give me that size, strength, or speed.
You didn't pray hard enough.
I prayed hard. I was fortunate to get to play college football, but I didn't get to go any further than that. And but yeah, for me as a teacher or even as a student, it's sometimes you rule out things when you're able to experience them, and that can be more important than ruling something in. So we tried to open it up. It didn't work. So hey, we went back to the drawing board, and we're still our goal is to have those middle and high schools in that good and excellent categories also.
Right. I know they are. And you have had in the last couple of years, 3 years, whatever, tremendous change in school. And in the elementary schools, and what do you attribute that to?
Well, that goes back to our teachers and our principals. They've done a great job teaching our kids and not loving them into failure, but loving them into success. And that's something that's hard sometimes to do, because if you're looking at a child who's having a tough home life, and you can say, well, I love him and it'll be okay, you don't have to do, then you're loving that child into failure. You've got to love them, because they're not going to perform for you if you don't love them, but you also have to hold them accountable. And
a little failure never hurt every once in a while.
Failure doesn't hurt.
Right.
And you got to learn to fall. It's that's part of it. Everybody doesn't get a trophy in the real world.
In the real world.
It's okay. It's okay not to come up. It's okay not to win every single time. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. I don't know how many times I've told both of my boys the same thing. It's not how you start now, it's how you finish.
Sure.
If you finish strong and you've given your effort, give the best effort you can, then that's all we can ever ask.
Well, I also think, though, you instituted phonics, became a way of teaching to read, which has changed a lot in your school. In fact, you have a principal that got a big award for spearheading that, I guess.
That's correct.
Dr.
Mr. Jacks, Barry
right.
Jacks.
Right.
Yeah, he's something special now. There's no doubt about that. Had a lot of really good teachers, at Matthews. And then Matthews is the one that started it with 93% poverty, and they're an excellent school, and had never been anywhere close to that. And it took away all the excuses for all the rest of our elementary schools. At that point in time, it was the highest poverty school that we had. So if you have less poverty, you have no excuse. So, our teachers were teaching hard. It's not that they were not teaching hard. It's just that our kids weren't retaining it. As a district,
or the methodology wasn't.
That's correct. As a district office, as a curriculum, we bought something that wasn't best for our students. It wasn't anybody's intention, but it just wasn't. And I was fortunate enough to have seen what that phonics base and that foundation can do in another district, and felt like that's the way we needed to go. And I was fought about it. I had people who didn't like it, people who fought against
Going back to the old days, right?
Without a doubt. You're going backwards. No, we're going to do something that is going to be productive. I did away with a lot of interventions, and we focus on Tier 1 instruction. You cannot intervene your way into success and out of a hole by any means. So those kids have to have that Tier 1 instruction, and our teachers have stepped up, and our principals are holding our teachers accountable, and our teachers are holding our students accountable, and we're having a whole lot of success. It's unbelievable the number of districts that have already visited our district to see what we're doing in the elementary schools. We've had them as far away as Pittsburgh. The city of Pittsburgh came in to see what was happening at Matthews, and then, of course, Pinecrest was the most improved school in the state of South Carolina. Ended up being let's see, what was the name of it? National School of Distinguishment. And they're going to be honored in Austin, Texas at the end of February. Only one of 2 schools in the state of South Carolina at elementary schools. So we have a lot to be proud of. Again, 6 excellent schools and 2 good in elementary. We have 3 average middle schools, and both our high schools are below average, and that's not good enough. Our students deserve better than that, and that's a focus for us moving forward. I'm extremely thankful that the board has allowed me to start at the beginning, at that early childhood, to truly try to build that foundation, because we haven't quit on those other kids by any means. We're still teaching them just as hard as we can teach them, but we wanted to make sure we started any kid coming in new. We wanted to start them with that great foundation.
Well, that brings me to a second point is what do we do for those students that are in high school, middle school, as far as we were talking about before we went on the air? If you can't read and you're in high school, that's a problem.
It definitely is a problem.
And
we do have interventions and things set up, and I just got through telling you that it's all about Tier 1, and it is, but once they get that far, you can't hold other kids back, because you have to take them out to try to teach them to read, and it's a struggle. It really is a struggle, because a lot of times pride gets in their way. Nobody wants to be labeled as someone who's not very smart.
right.
And so, we continue to work hard and prepare our kids to be successful in the real world.
So as you move forward, I think one of the issues that I think, do we have enough teachers?
We're looking for math teachers. Anybody out there that wants to teach math, come see me tomorrow. Our principals have done a great job trying to recruit. We've taken a lot of teachers from other districts have moved into District 50, which is a great thing. The intern program that we have with Lander has been an incredible success. It has had so much success. And what happens there? Those students that are top in their class are able to come in, and when they're doing their student teaching, we're actually paying them to teach as 90% of their pay, and we're keeping 80 to 90% of those kids are staying with us, and so really as a second-year teacher, they're more of a fourth or fifth-year teacher. So it's been a big help. We just can't find math. We can't have a tough time
Well,
finding.
what is that? Is it because of the price that they're being paid in the schools versus what they can go work in industry?
More than likely, that's part of it for sure. Teaching's a hard job. I mean, teaching. People say, "Well, you get your summers off." No, you really don't. It doesn't quit at 3:30. It's an extremely hard job when you really dedicate and work as hard as you possibly can to make sure those young people are successful. It's very stressful. Mm-hmm. You don't get to pick your kids that you have, that you're being measured by either. So the math, I think Lander's only had one or two graduate with a math degree that went into education in the last 2 or 3 years. I think we were able to get maybe both of them. I don't know, but I know for sure we were able to get one of them. Special ed the same way. You just don't have many kids graduating this point. Hopefully, something we did, I think it's my second year here, maybe third, I can't remember. But we moved the teacher cadet class out of the Career Center and put them at each one of our high schools, mm-hmm. so that we could increase the number of students who would actually have that opportunity to see if teaching would be something that they would be interested in doing. And so that's 3 years out. So hopefully within the next couple of years, we'll start seeing more of our kids that came through our programs come back to teach, because I think that's the secret. You have to grow your own. It's a tough place. Greenwood's a great place to raise a family. Mm-hmm. But if you're 22, 23 years old and you haven't already settled down with your significant other, mm-hmm. It's kind of tough. It's a little. You don't have the nightlife. You don't have some of the things that some of these other places have. I don't want those other things myself, but some people do.
Right. Well, I just it just seems that if math is a problem, if math is a problem, how are you addressing it so our kids come out of school with that math background, though? Because it's necessary.
We're still having to teach them. There's no doubt. We have more students in the math classes than what we'd like to have as far as student-teacher ratios. We have a number of our teachers are teaching 4 blocks instead of just teaching 3. Teaching extra classes, using swivel. We've had to become very creative so that we could actually make sure that we could teach our kids what they need to be taught. It's not ideal, mm-hmm. but you've got to make the best out of what you have. And we have some very, very good math teachers. That's not the problem. It's just that it's tough to find.
How about
more.
Physics and science?
Same. Science is almost the same. Right now, I think we're full. We're full staff, I think, at both high schools. We may be one down, but if not, we're 2 or 3 down at one of our high schools. That's a lot in math, and that's putting a real burden on some of those teachers over there to pick up the extra. I'm very thankful that they're willing to do that. Now, we're trying to compensate them as much as we possibly can. It was a whole lot easier with ESSER money because we had money that we could do that for, but still, that's something that we're trying to do.
Well, speaking of that, I did notice that your administration has gotten larger since COVID. Correct? Your administration has gotten larger. Your staff, for your administration staff, your budget for your administration. You've put more people in administration.
I think we have one extra assistant principal at Greenwood High School. Other than that, I don't know of any extra. Now, we did away with an assistant superintendent's role. We only have 3 assistant superintendents now, where we used to have 4.
Okay. But your budget has gone from like 2.9 to 4.4 million on administration.
I didn't know that. Again, part of that's because of pay raises.
Okay.
Those pay raises went up. Teachers were making 40, 42 maybe, and now they're at 47. That's a huge pay raise. So it goes up across the board. If you want to keep, and we have people that are been in the business a while too. That's a great question. Something I'll have to go back and look at.
Okay, all right. Well, I just something I noticed
Man,
when I was
hit me hard, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to have a real discussion with you.
I have no problem with that.
That's right.
You say it's went from 2.9
to 4.4 since COVID.
Just in administration.
Just in administration. Yes, that's.
I question that, but I will follow up on that.
Okay.
Because
right.
If that's the case, I'm not aware.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, we're trying to figure out. Your premise is that you wanted to be able to do more for the students, but right now students are having to apply the same system that it has been as far as the ACTS and the AVID and all these programs.
ACTS, AVID, STEMS, and medical magnet they apply for. The fine arts program, I think they have to apply for that. The the GSI up at Hodges, that's a lottery to be chosen, and so is Montessori. You're limited on the number of spaces there. With Hodges, you've got your zone students, and then whatever's not zoned, and we have that many more
And what's
seats.
the GSI program?
I'm going to have to refer to, I don't know exactly. Greenwood School of Inquiry.
And what does that mean?
Not much to me, because if we're not teaching standards, then we're not giving them what we need to give them. So it's basically name only, honestly. That was another reason I felt like we needed to do away with it. We're going to leave that there.
We're going to leave that there. All right. Well, what about the Montessori program? How do you feel about that?
Well, the Montessori program's, it's still intact. It's still exactly the same as it always has been. I do have some concerns with Montessori. It's very, very expensive, for one thing, and kindergarten, first, second, third are not performing nowhere even close to as well as what our regular schools are performing. 4th and 5th grade, they outperform us when it comes to SC ready.
Well, is it maybe because they're running behind just in their learning curve? Is the learning curve maybe a little different?
Possibly. Again, that verdict's out there. I can't rule it out at this point, but it's something that we have to watch. I don't know the answer there. Again, that verdict's out.
That verdict.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, Montessori has been around for years. I mean, as far as a program, it's been around for years.
It sure has.
And of
one
course,
of the problems we have with Montessori, in my opinion, a lot of the students that really need that type of learning don't apply.
Why is that?
I don't have an answer there, but really our lower socioeconomic students are the ones that should be applying, but they don't. We've tried to beat the bushes and make sure that people understood that it's there and it's an option, but
well, the question, do they understand maybe even what it is?
More than likely not. You're talking about a 3-year-old, 4-year-old when it starts, and if they're in at 4, then they're going to stay in all the way through. So it's limited.
How many students roughly are in the program in Montessori?
141.
Sorry,
141 at this point.
141.
140, 140,
right.
Right there in that close anyway. And you're talking about, what, 9 teachers? I think there's, what, eight aides? Somewhere in that. Don't quote me on those numbers, but there's, it's a very good, very, very good teacher-to-student ratio.
Ratio.
Especially with the aides. And our other first and second, third grade and fourth grade would love to have. We can't afford that with all the rest of them.
Well, what about the having the Montessori teachers? I know Lander has that as a program. Do you have any problem getting the teachers for the Montessori?
That's been a huge problem for the last 2 years. Right now, we're at least two Montessori teachers down, and because we don't have people who have certification, and we pay for their certification, and that's costly also. You can't ask somebody to go do something that that they need education for and not give it to them. We just haven't had that many people want. It's hard to find that
What is the Montessori program at Lander? Do they not have students over there in the program?
I don't know about all that. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with what's coming out of the Montessori program as I am some of the regular programs. Again, each year we're looking at replacing 80 to 90 teachers just through attrition. That's about a 10% turnover rate, which is not bad. Montessori, I don't know. That's a very small number of students, not a small number of teachers. We're not trying to do away with the program by any means, but at the same time, we still have to step up and look at how effective it's been.
How long have we had the Montessori program? Do you have any idea?
Before I got here.
Before you got here. So at least 5 or 6 years.
At least 7. How about that?
At least 7. Okay, at least 7. All right. Okay, so at least 7. So you've had one group at least go all the way through it then.
Yes, I would think so.
Right. And do you track your students? Are you able to track and see how students that came out of this program or ones that are involved in the Ag Corps program?
It's something that was not, when I first took over, Montessori was at Lakeview. Mm-hmm. That's where the program was housed, and therefore all students at Lakeview were put together when it came to testing. So the program was never pulled out. So they never looked at what those kids were doing.
And now you do?
And now we are. Again, those kids have not come all the way through at this point, but since I started. But I think it's only fair that you look and see. Same way with our STEMs and our ACTs, and our medical magnet. We're looking at those kids too. It takes a lot of time and manpower to actually pull those individual kids out. You don't have to pluck them one at a time. It's not as easy as pushing a button, according to Dr. Young. So, but they do a great job trying to pull those out so we can actually look at it fairly.
Mm-hmm. So the high schools are a problem. We're going to have these kids are going to be graduating. How long are we going to have to wait before we see the effects getting through to from your elementary schools where these kids can read and stuff? How long is it going to take to be able to? Because this affects not only that child's future and everything. It affects our community as far as having job-ready people that are able to do jobs and go to work.
Oh, you're exactly right. That's our goal is to, if we don't have a strong workforce, then we're not going to be able to attract businesses. And I don't want to be Greenville by any means, but we do need jobs, and we need jobs that our people can make plenty of money doing. We'll get better. We'll get better, or they need to run me off, one or the other. How about that? I don't mind putting my neck out there for that. We had to focus really hard on our elementary to begin with, because we were in really bad shape. And if you remember, about halfway through my first year, we had something called COVID. So COVID came, and for that, in the second year, it was all COVID, and the third year, it's just still messed up. And we did not want to use that as an excuse by any means.
Right.
But we did lose a little bit. I think all of our kids lost some. Behavior's been different since they came back. Not just at our place; it's across the state, probably the country.
Across the country,
more than likely. And I don't have the answer for that. Our teachers and our administrators, they stepped up, and we came back and we offered face-to-face, because we knew, without a doubt, our kids need to see. We need to see them. We need to put our eyes on them. We need to put our hands on them so we can love them a little bit, so that that's the way they learn best. And we gained a lot on people. We got better, and other people went backwards, I think.
You're not giving me much hope.
What do you mean? the future's bright. I mean, it's there's no doubt about the future bright. We have look.
Well, you say the future's bright, but we got all these kids with problems getting out, and we've got elementary school, but we got a way far time of kids that are going to be growing up that aren't going to have the advantage of our elementary schools, of where we were, where we are, and where they are now.
We're still teaching them as hard as we can possibly teach them, man. I can't take them. You only get 1 year in first grade. You only get 1 year in second grade.
Well, my brother had 2 in first grade, but
most of them only have 1 year. How about that?
Okay.
And if they have to repeat, then you're looking down the road. It's probably going to be a problem for that child too. So, the thing. Yes, our schools ended up being in a below average by a very, very small margin. 1 point away from being average. It's still below average. Greenwood High School was. I think Emerald was 3 points below being average.
Mm-hmm.
Average is not where we want to be, and we definitely don't want to be below average.
Right.
You say all that to say we have so many unbelievably great students. I mean, we have kids that are.
But you have a lot of disparity, don't you, between the great students that you're talking about here and those that are struggling just to make it through.
Without a doubt, and that's what we're trying to change at the elementary level, and as we come up. The thing that people, and you say, well, what are you really doing? Well, with those scores, the kids that we started with in kindergarten, they're just now in third grade. So they haven't even taken SC Ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
So those other kids we have backed up, and we have started, and we have gotten a lot better. For the last 2 years, our fifth grades have been a whole lot better than what they had been in the past, sending it to middle schools. Our middle schools hadn't improved enough. So we're focusing there. We're able to hire a couple coaches that are able to go in to make sure we're teaching those standards. And it's not that our teachers aren't working hard. That's not it.
What do we do about tutoring and this type of thing? Are there programs available for that? We
do have some tutoring. As a matter of fact,
the AVID program
Mr. Kynard, one of our new board members, he's working now with some retired teachers to try to come in to help these students at the high schools that are struggling in math or struggling in reading, and therefore we're trying to have people come in that can actually help them with that tutor situation. We sure are. We have things that we already offer, especially online, but some kids are not very successful online. It's a catch-up situation.
What about the parents' involvement? What about parents' involvement?
Some do, some don't.
Does that make a big difference as far as that child's future?
Without a doubt. I mean, and I say
I laid that one up for you there, just for the record.
You soft-tossed me that one, I guess, didn't you? And I say this all the time to our teachers and our principals. You have to rebuild that relationship with that student so that they perform for you as if they were your own child. Because some of them don't have parents that. It's not that they don't love them. Because I've seen too many. It's not that they don't love them. They love them. But education is not a top priority. And that's truly the way out of poverty. Education is the way out of poverty. If the parents are not pushing it, then we have to find another way to push it. And we've seen so many success stories. But, you don't always... Everybody wants to talk about the negatives, I guess, is the big thing.
No, it's not the negatives.
If good news sold, right? Isn't that a song, man?
I talk about a lot of good news. And, this isn't about the negatives. It's about how we get more of those that are at the lower rungs to be able to go forward. And can there be organizations that can partner with you? Do you have partners in the community where people work with you?
We'll take more.
We'll take more.
Yes, we will. Jonathan's here. He and Debbie Leonard, both of them, reach out if you're willing to come and help. We'll find something for you to do. We'll find a way for you to help our students. We're all in this together. I mean, it's the more success we have as a school district, the more success this community and this county is going to be able to have.
Exactly.
This county has the Greenwood Promise. It's an unbelievable opportunity for our students, and we're seeing more students take advantage of that. It's like you and I were talking earlier. Those kids didn't believe it was would really happen. They didn't believe it was really going to be there. Now they're starting to see that it
I
really
guess
is
that
there.
would be the kids, or would it be the parents? Because
Both.
don't
I
you
think it would be
that
both.
the parents maybe would have not believed that it was going to
Sure.
happen, so they didn't have the focus
Possibly.
to push the child to say, you
Possibly.
can do this.
But
Yeah.
now they see somebody from their own community, their own circle, having to be able to have that success, and we're starting to see more kids take advantage of it, which is very, very encouraging.
Well, we are going to have a break. When we come back, we are here with Dr. Steve Glen. We're talking about all things District 50. He is the superintendent of schools. We would love to get some questions. If you have a question, 864-229-7984. That's 864-229-7984. You keep it right here on WCRS Radio. We'll be back. We'll be listening to a little music on the internet, on Facebook, and we'll be listening to some commercials
And
on
I'm
the
not
radio.
singing, Ann.
Not your singing, not your singing. No, we won't be doing any singing. Hold on, everybody. We'll be right back. That's right. We're right back here at WCRS Radio. I'm Ann Eller, and yes, we are doing this Facebook thing. He's got me all miscombobulated here today. There you go. I'm right here. Dr. Stephen Glen is here. We're talking about District 50, all the issues and everything. If you've got a question, don't hesitate to ask it. We did have a question come in, Dr. Glen, about how do you work with ESL students? And we were talking beforehand. You have something like 20 different languages.
That's correct. I can't name them all, of course, but our population, at least with our Hispanic population, has increased from 14% when I took over to 17% now. So that's pretty substantial. A lot of these kids come in and they can't speak English, and we have to try to find a way to catch them up. It's not an intelligence thing, because these kids are smart.
Right.
I mean, really, really smart. It's a language barrier, and we have to find a way combat that because we want them to be able to be successful. And
Well, what does the
we have
federal
not had-
government say? Doesn't the federal government have something on how students that are with
they do, but
language barriers?
They do, but at the same time, I don't feel like that there's been very successful. So that's going to be one of our initiatives for next year is to try to come up with something that's going to be better than what we have, so that we can catch these kids up quicker. I don't know what that is. That's the reason I hire really smart people, so
You hire
I hire
really
really
smart
smart people, no doubt
Yeah,
about that.
and they haven't come up with an answer either, huh?
I haven't put them on that yet. That's
Oh,
for
okay.
next year. We'll start that as soon as we start the budget talks. We're looking at that for next year,
Okay,
which is it's coming up in a couple weeks.
right. So are these ESL students? I'm calling them ESL. I know you have another term, and you have about 20 of them.
They keep changing. MLL, MLP. I don't know what they're being called at this point. It's kids
are
who
they
have a
mixed-
native
are
language
they-
other than English.
Are they mixed in with your regular classes? They don't have separate classes. They don't have tutors. They don't have.
We do have a tutor program, especially at the high school. We take those seniors who have passed out of it and have conquered the English language, maybe you might say, and they go back into other classes, and we give them credit for that to interpret for those students to help them be able to understand what's going on. We don't have enough interpreters. That's another thing. We don't have enough of those. It's hard for us to compete at that. It's hard to pay those people what they can make in other places. But at the same time, it's a need. Again, most of our ESOL or MLL or MLP teachers that we have, whatever you want to call it,
Right, okay.
most of them do not speak a different language. A majority of them speak English. So that we have Chromebooks that will translate, and we try to use technology to help us out there. But we're still lacking something, and I don't know what that is at this point. But we are going to definitely try to improve there. I think that that and special ed are both two of the places that we're weakest at, and we need to attack where we're weakest.
Right. Well, special ed, that is another, and that is a federally mandated programs that you have to have.
No doubt.
So it's an area that you just don't have an answer for me. Is that what you're telling me?
At this point, we have answers. We have things we're doing, but we want to be better. I guess that's my answer at this point.
Okay.
You also have mental illness. Mental illness is in there also. We have MTSS, and we do those things, and it's just difficult. We've never seen the number of students that we're seeing now with mental illness. In my 30-some years, I don't know where it came from.
Why would we have so many students? Do you think?
I can't answer.
I mean, COVID.
We can blame it on anything.
We can blame it on anything? Okay,
but the
all
truth
right.
of it is, it's what we have, and it's very difficult because some of those we don't know how to teach them at this point. But it's not the kids' fault. It's our responsibility as public education to teach them, and we'll figure that out somehow or another. We'll keep working until we do.
One of my contentions is, and I may be wrong on this, is that we have parents who really, a lot of parents don't know how to be parents. They didn't have very good parenting when they were growing up, and so therefore it's a cycle that continues. I think that's a problem too.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Again, it's like we talked before. They may not have had very much success in school and don't like the schools. You have to you treat those people with respect though, and they understand you're trying to do what's best for their kid, and they'll come around to your side.
How do you teach parents?
Can't teach parents.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually,
kids are easy, Ann.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Parents are not, because they get to choose what they want to do. That's a. Hey, if we get that answer, we're going to write a book and we'll never have to work again, right?
Well, but I'm saying that is an important part, is the parents, because they are an integral part of the equation.
Oh, you show me a family, two parents taking interest in their own child, and I'll show you 9 times out of 10 a student's going to be successful.
Right.
It's just what it is.
Right.
But unfortunately, we're not in that situation. Most of our kids, we're 76% poverty in District 50. 76% poverty.
That's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yes,
it is hard to believe.
It's unbelievably hard to believe, and But we are. That's not my numbers. That's not District 50 numbers. Those are numbers that come from the state. So they're measured, across the district, and we're one of the highest around us. McCormick would be higher than us, I think.
For poverty.
Poverty,
right?
But nobody's.
How about Ware Shoals?
Ware Shoals is yes, but none of those districts. We don't have a district in the state of South Carolina that has higher poverty that's outperforming us. So that's something to be proud of. We are taking advantage, and we are poverty is not an excuse here. We took that excuse away a long time ago.
Sure. With
Matthews and what the things that Pinecrest has been able to do, and the rest of our elementary schools. That excuse is gone, but it's still a factor.
Right.
But it's not an excuse.
It's not an
because
excuse.
Some of those kids are really smart. They've just never had the opportunity.
Sure. And
they don't get the opportunity at home either.
Right. So it stops. So whatever good is happening stops at the end of the school day.
They're with us, 7.5 hours a day?
Right.
The rest of the time they're not. So, majority of the time during that day they're with somewhere else.
Right.
But, that goes back to that tier 1 and making it stick. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, I think we need parent classes then. I think you need to add some parent classes.
Tell me how I get them here other than feeding them, right? Feeding them and pay them, and I don't have enough money to do that.
Huh? Yeah.
Yes, K4 has something that we have expanded. It's cost us a lot of money, but we're seeing big benefits out of that. Those kids
what is that?
It's our 4-year-olds.
4-year-olds.
We're bringing them on into schools, and another thing that we did, we used to have them all at
Are
one
you bringing
place.
the parents with them?
Parents do come in, and we do have we do have classes for parents in the 4K, and we can mandate some of that because of 4K is not. You don't have to do 4K.
Okay.
But it's been a great thing for us because those kids are getting to come in and actually learn how to do school, and they're starting a lot higher in kindergarten than what they used to be. Because of our 4-year-old programs, and that's been huge for us.
Right.
It really has.
Well,
and taking that 4-year-old program and putting them back at their home schools.
Right.
We didn't have any. We had a couple of projects, housing developments or housing projects that didn't have any students in our 4-year-old. And now that we've moved them back to the schools that their brothers and sisters are going to, we've almost doubled the number of 4-year-olds that we're actually teaching at this point.
That's interesting. So I want to relate a story. Anthony Price from Pathway House.
Yes.
He has has a good program, works with a certain population, and is making big strides there. And I love this story that he tells about a parent, a mother, and her child, her little girl, and he said she came in and they were having issues and this type of thing. And so he asked the mom, and I think the little girl was like maybe 2 or 3. And he goes, "Do you ever put her on your lap and read to her?" She goes, "Oh, hell no. When I was growing up, my mama put me over. I'd stayed away from my mama's lap because she would put me over there and spank my butt." And Anthony gave her a couple of books from the thrift store, and he goes, "I want you to take this home. I want you to put that child on your lap, and I want you to read to her. This is an assignment." And so we saw her a couple of weeks later, and he goes, "How's it going? Did you read to your child?" She goes, "Oh, my God, I didn't realize what an experience that was. My child loves it, but I love it more." And that, I think, is such an impactful little story.
Oh, yeah. When I was the principal at Avil High School, we didn't have a reading time. And you don't have time really in high school, and I didn't think anything about it, but I had a 9th grader who was not a very good student come in and said, "When are we going to get to read? Dr. Glen, when are we going to get to read?" I said, what are you talking about? Well, he loved to read.
Right.
That's what we're trying to make sure that our younger kids love to read. If they love to read, then they're going to learn, and that's it's been so important, and that's another.
Well,
reason
that's where the parent, but I think that's where that parent
we're having to take that on though as a public education. We don't get we have to take everybody,
right?
And that's sometimes that's what our job is. Our job's to take them and teach them and do the best we can, and we have to be parent and in some situations, a lot of situations not. We have great parents, and then we have some that are lacking. There's no doubt.
And of course, they're all mixed in one big class.
Correct.
And that is a problem unto itself if you don't have everybody go pulling on the same oar. I used to have a friend that would say that.
There
Yes.
you go.
Yeah. So as far as that, I get the impression that it's something we're working on. We don't really have a lot of answers, but we are improving.
We are getting better every day. You know, and another thing we have done with our schools is we are readiness grouping, and that's not ability now. That's readiness grouping. You're taking those kids where they're at. We're grouping them so that our teachers don't have to teach. You know, if they're if it's third grade reading, you may have a kid in there reading at the 11th grade level, and you may have one that's not even reading. Hard for that teacher to teach both those levels. So we're grouping those kids together so that we can accelerate them. And the thing that's been the most eye-opening is maybe the bottom. Now, the bottom section is going to be fewer, of course, but to actually see that kid raise his hand and ask a question or to answer a question, because before he wouldn't do that because somebody else is going to raise their hand, somebody else is going to answer the question. Well, they didn't feel like they were smart enough. We have seen huge growth, unbelievable growth of those.
So does
kids.
that have to do with different age groups? Then we're doing it by age. We're not doing it by age.
No, it would be grade
Like
level.
grade level.
Yes, it'd be
Okay.
grade level.
Okay. Because that kind of reminded me of the one-room schoolhouse idea.
And it's fluid, because if a kid improves, we're going to move them to whatever level they need to be in, and that's the secret. You can't. We're not going to pigeonhole anybody. If you want to work hard and you're going to get better, then you're going to be able to be rewarded. That's my philosophy. If you do your work and you do what's meant to be, then you're going to be able to be rewarded.
Well, that's great. We had a question come in. What organizations are helping with your schools and could help them with these issues? I mean, organizations. Do you have any nonprofits, for example, working with you?
Jonathan, I'm glad you're here. You'll have to help me on this one. YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, Healthy Learners. My gosh, they do so much for us. What'd you say, Debbie? Good News Clubs. They come in. Every element. That's right. So we have a lot. We can always use more. Like I said before.
The Call Me Mr. program.
Call Me Mr. programs
the YMCA.
is in all of our schools. We already said YMCA.
CA.
Yeah, Boys and Girls Club. Like I said, you know, those are all great programs and nonprofit that do a lot for our students.
Is there more that they could do, that they could step up and do you think? I mean,
Models Academy.
Models Academy, yeah.
Steve Coleman.
Yes.
Yep.
That's
yes.
Call Me Mr. Isn't that the Call Me Mr. program?
No,
or
it's a different program.
Different program.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the Model Steve does an unbelievably good job with our kids. Lander tutoring, we have bring students from Lander to tutoring our kids. That's another. And like I said, the relationship we have with Piedmont Tech and Lander is second to none. They've opened up their campuses to all of our students. If they're willing to work, then they can take any classes that they want to take on any of those campuses. So that's something
Well,
that has changed.
that's on the advanced end, right? On your
It
advanced
is on the
end.
advanced end.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It sure is. Not all of it. Some of those are not on the
Oh,
advanced end.
no. I'm talking about Lander and Piedmont
Lander
Tech.
and Piedmont Tech are. But
right.
We still need to push those kids too. You know, you don't want to. They're bright
You don't want
spots.
to take your foot off the gas with
You
them.
can't
no,
take your
right.
foot off the gas there. And our top level kids, I'll put them against any in the state of South Carolina. We have some brilliant students, unbelievably smart, that do a lot of amazing things.
Absolutely. Well, I did have a couple more questions if we can go over those. You did a feasibility study.
We did.
What's some of the biggest issues? I'm not talking about the nitpicking small stuff, but what's some of the biggest things that the feasibility study pointed out to you?
Well, it wasn't really a surprise to me, I don't think, but housing is a huge issue for Greenwood County. That affects our teachers, recruiting teachers. It affects our students. They say that we are declining in students, but our county's getting bigger. So we'll see how that works out, right? But it seems to be more of a retirement. It's becoming more of a retirement place than it is for younger people.
But I mean, as far as school issues with this feasibility, because didn't the
Yes,
school district paid
did.
for this,
We
right?
did.
Yes.
And that's going to continue to come out. But one of the things is we've got some really old schools, especially our elementary. Pinecrest, Hodges, Lakeview, Rice. just to name a few. Those Mays was built in the 80s, I think. Was it in early 90s? Early 90s, but it's probably one of the worst built schools we have. We have
Well, for space,
well, not only
right?
space, but we have a lot of mechanical problems there. We have roof leaks, and we have all kind of. It was just not designed very well.
Thank God it was done before you got there.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not my fault, but it's my problem. How about that? It's definitely something going down the road that we've got to look at because Pinecrest was not safe. It was a darn disaster when when I got here, and we built walls and we put up fences and to try to make them as safe as we possibly can. It's still not. Anytime a kid has to walk outside to change from one building to another, that's not safe. Hodges, they've done an unbelievably great job of keeping that's a very, very good built school. It's
right.
Unbelievably built well. Whoever built it back in the late 50s, early 60s built it well.
Back when they built things, yes,
exactly.
There you go.
And I don't want people to think we haven't taken care of them because we have.
Right.
But at some point, we're going to have to look at doing something different with those elementary schools.
That sounds like more money to me.
Opinion, possibly.
Yeah.
If we continue to get smaller, then we're going to have to look at consolidating some of them maybe at some time. But
is the student base decreasing?
A little. It's a little bit. It's down. Probably about 200 kids over the last 4 or 5 years. That about right, Jonathan?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking off memory now, and I've slept since that time, and it's been few times anyway. But how many kids went to charter school? Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. How many kids are staying at home? How many kids are going private? How many kids are being homeschool? A lot of kids are hard.
What about the changes to this way children can go to school now? Is that affecting the school district, school choice? Sure
it will. And that's something that we talk about. If we don't have students coming to our district, we don't have jobs.
Right.
So we have to give them a better quality education than what we were given, or we're going to continue to lose kids. Mm-hmm. And that's something I feel like we are doing. I don't think you'll find anybody any better than what our early childhood is at this point. In the state of South Carolina, I feel that good about what we're doing.
But will you be able to continue it throughout their moving through the school system?
That's our hope. That's our plan. Back before we took over, you could look back longitudinally and you could see those kids coming in kindergarten, and they'd take the MAP test, which is a nationally normed test, and those kids are scoring as a group, mm-hmm. as a whole district, scoring in the 48th percentile, 50th percentile. By the time they're in third grade, they're in the 30th percentile. They're getting worse when they're with us. That's
terrible.
That's terrible. Now, those kids are coming in still in that 40, 48, 50 percentile somewhere, and they're leaving kindergarten in the 99th percentile. And they're staying there. They're maybe in the 84th percentile in second or third grade, but we're holding on. It's sticking, and
right.
It's not before it wasn't sticking. It's
so you have a plan to get because I think
the vision's there, the plan's there, it's being implemented, and unfortunately it's going to take some time. We're not quitting on those other kids. You keep asking me. I'm not quitting on those other kids.
I know you're not quitting, but
at the same time, I don't have a magic wand, and I can't go back and fill all the holes that they're lacking.
Right.
We're trying to fill as many of those holes as we possibly can for those students to be successful. But once that, if you don't have a great foundation, building's not going to stand. And that's pretty easy philosophy.
It is. It's
true. It's so true.
It is. It is true. Well, I have appreciated you coming in so much this afternoon. I think out of this, we need to get more parent support.
Agreed.
And organizations that are out there maybe could be talked to about stepping up a little bit more. I know you have great organizations, but sometimes you don't realize. We have great
organizations, but we'll take more. How about that?
Will you take more, or
sure.
Will you take more involvement from the ones that you have?
Without a doubt. We're all in this together. It's not a Steve Glen show by any means. If it was, we wouldn't be too successful.
Today it was.
Today it was, maybe. Hey, the only time I'm going to stand out front is when something goes wrong, Ann. If it goes wrong, it is my fault. The rest of the time, it's probably somebody else's idea.
Well, I appreciate you coming out here today to talk about all these issues. I don't think we probably solved anything, but maybe we gave a little clarity to those that were interested in it. And of course, it will be posted on our Facebook. It is going to be on Facebook, and it will also be on our website. So people will be able to go back and listen to it. So I hope you said the appropriate things.
Hey, we just told the truth. That's all it is.
Well, Dr. Glenn, now when is your next school board meeting?
I think it's on the 18th. It's a Tuesday, the 18th, after Martin Luther King Day.
After Martin Luther King Day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to mention, because I think a lot of people may know it, but they don't, is that you can watch these meetings.
Stream
you don't
live.
have to be
Correct.
there to be part of it.
That is correct. They're streamed live. All of our regular scheduled meetings will be streamed live. And I think we actually put them on the on the web page, and they can even go back and look at them later.
Right.
By all means, we're not hiding anything. We're going to disagree sometimes, but that's okay too. If we always agree, we're never going to get better.
Well, that is true, and I think a lot of people don't realize that.
No,
it's
they
okay
don't.
to have
It's
a
okay to
disagreement.
it really is.
So that people can learn.
Because everybody has a different view. And, if we put all those different views together, we're going to come out with a better solution.
Absolutely. Well, I know you have a good team. You keep taking all these great teachers and principals and putting them over in administration. But I won't talk about that right
that's
now.
a low blow, Ann. Wow. I promised you I don't think we've increased.
No, but you keep taking
one.
people out of out of principals and teachers. I always worry. I'll tell you, that. I always worry about that because I've seen some really great ones, and all of a sudden they're moving right up there to administration, and I think sometimes it's a shame. Yeah.
Well, it's not a shame. You can't hold people back. If you do what's best for people, good people will follow them. It's always been my philosophy. I'm never going to hold somebody back. If they can be successful, then it's going to help us in the long run. And the most important thing is it helps our kids. That's what the most important thing is. We've taken some unbelievably great teachers out of the classroom and made them coaches. And not only now, they're instead of teaching those 30 or 25, they're touching 2 or 3 different schools. So,
well, that's a good thing. I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that.
You're trying to build that human capacity is what we're trying to build as far as teaching is concerned. And same way with principals. We did have a lot of turnover at the beginning, but it's been relatively stable here. I was looking just the other day. We've got several principals who've been sitting in the same seat for 5 years, 4 and 5 years. Some 7 years. That's a long time for a principal. Me personally, after that year 5, somewhere in that, it's kind of gets a little dicey sometimes. It's you've changed a whole bunch of things, and now the little things become problems to you. It's that was me.
That was you.
That was me.
Okay, all right, that was you.
I'm not afraid to change things. I guess if it's not working, we're going to change it. We're going to try something different.
Well, I hope that some of this has been good for you, too, as far as a discussion here today, and we've brought up some points, and I'll look forward to having you back again.
Sounds good. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. You have been listening to WCRS right here with me, Ann Eller, and Dr. Steve Glenn here today. So I hope you enjoyed the show. That's going to do it for us. I'll be back in the morning, and tomorrow afternoon, Jonathan Bass will be joining us as we talk about the city and taxes and all that good stuff. So we're going to take it away. That's the end of the show. So have a good one, everybody, and thanks so much for being here with us today on WCRS Radio.